Okay, my question was, how do we know how much fabric is going to be fitted in that distance of 5 inches? Well, if you remember earlier on when we did the initial cutting of the salwar, we put some notches there. This is half of our salwar was 21 inches, and then half of that was it was in 4 pieces. Yeah, the salwar was in 4 pieces. Do you want to just grab hold of that piece of paper for me, or that one that I folded in half, and I want to just explain. Yeah. So okay, this was our salwar. Just cut. This is the miniature one. Okay, the notch is there, and that's the area that you're fitting into that 5 inches. Obviously this is a miniature version. In reality this is 21 inches. Okay, that's how much the whole width of the salwar is, that much, and that is the 21 inches, and this is on a standard fabric. Yours is going to be more, because one of the salwars that we cut was on a 60-inch wide fabric, and if you're looking at a 60-inch wide fabric, then half of 60 is 30 inches. So this is 21 inches. Yours is going to be 59. So yours is 29 inches. The gear of half of salwar is 29 inches. Okay, so it's a lot wider. You'll get far more pleating. So what we're basically doing is each time we're grabbing and we're doing that to it, just on the one side. So we need to open that up, and we're tucking and folding and tucking and folding until we get to that point. Okay, so I think that's probably explained it. Has that explained it? Okay. Come back, grab hold of my needle again, and now this is, you do need a little bit of experimenting with this. You can pre-pleat and before you go on to attach it, but you know what, I would recommend doing it this way, because you can mess around and you can get. Now it might have seemed like it was an impossible thing to do, but it's not, and they don't have to be absolutely precise. Even if they're slightly uneven, when you're wearing it, you're not going to be able to tell. Now there is another method of doing this, and I'll come back to that and I'll explain the pros and cons of that in a minute. Okay, now the belt, right, okay, one major mistake. There we are. We all make mistakes. I've gone and attached it on the inside out. Okay, how are we going to remedy that? We can either unpick this, or we can unpick the police, or I haven't overlocked this, so I'm going to do one better. I'm going to put this on the inside. I'm going to break that thread for a minute. If you make a mistake, try and find a solution to it. Don't fret about it. Look for a solution. And now this is a perfect solution for those of you that don't have overlockers. Okay, and what that does is all the raw unsalvaged edge is trapped on the inside of the seam, and because this is a belt and we want it sitting flat and we don't want these bulky seaming, we're going to seam over this. So earlier on I was explaining to my pupils how when you make a mistake, you butter it up and you make it into something positive. So okay, so we made a mistake of doing sewing this on the wrong side, but because I hadn't overlocked this, it would have meant that threads would have come out. What I've done is I've done a double seaming, an invisible seaming, where it's gone on the inside. Yeah, so that's like a solution as well. So never fret. If you've done anything wrong, try and find a solution to it. You know, worrying isn't the answer, and giving up is definitely not the answer. Right, okay. Now then, that and that are going to meet up. And if you're worried that I'm going to go one-sided, what you can do is just pin that into place. So that's a reminder that we've got to, that's a center mark, that's half of the salwar, and then we've got a small amount left here that we've got to incorporate, and that we're going to put a few darts towards the back. Now this is just a straight seam, we've no darts along this area, and I'll explain where it is that I've put no darts so that it's easy for you to understand. And then we've just got a bit of fabric left over that I'm going to just place a few darts just to get rid of the excess fabric. Okay. I'm going to try and go symmetric. Okay, so we've got 3 darts, small ones, and also I'm going to go the opposite direction, so both the pleats are formed either coming inwards or going outwards. So we've got a distance of about 4 inches, and we've got a dart, and the last darts that I was doing were facing towards the inside of the machine. Now I'm going to go outwards and place the darts so that they're facing me. So that's one. They don't have to be 100% precise, but we're going to do as best as possible to make them as accurate as possible. So we've got 3 which are small to clear off, and now what we've got to do is we should be able to, okay, hasn't got the notch there. That notch should actually meet up, should have met up with this notch, but it hasn't. I don't know what I've done wrong. Probably gone slightly more on. It doesn't matter. You've got absolutely nothing running between here and it might be that. That's not, you know, this is the one that I didn't press, so that center line is not, the notch didn't come out for some reason. That's not right. Now I've got about 5 inches left, and I've got this much fabric which I've got to pleat and fit inside this area. So this time I'm facing the pleats towards me. The first of my pleats starts on the notched area, and then each time I'm pleating, I'm lifting the foot up and just pushing the pleat towards, and actually these pleats are easier than doing the other ones, but it's a good practice to actually get into the habit of doing both ways. So you're picking up like an inch of fabric, you're folding it in half, and you're just trapping it underneath. If you've got an overlock facility, I'd say overlock this, zigzag it if you haven't got the overlocker. If you haven't got any of those, then I would recommend always seaming on top of this, yeah, and that one, that will stop any fraying threads from coming out to the extreme, and also it will tie in all this excess fabric towards the top side, so it stops it from bulging. Okay, what we're going to do is, if you've got any questions,